Hi everybody and welcome to TOOP TV.
There's a lot happening in Adelaide at the moment and a lot of it right here in the Garden of Unearthly Delight, so make sure you check it out soon.
Now today we have a special treat for you in SA's finest, this gorgeous home in North Adelaide which you're just going to love.
Also today, if you're thinking of buying or selling in Norwood, make sure you stay tuned for our Suburb Insider on this part of town.
And we're live and interactive today, so please send in your questions so we can answer them for you live on air. Well, sadly summer is over, but the property market is certainly heating up and we have some great homes coming on the market shortly.
On today's program, we'll be talking to Cameron Cusher from RP Data about market conditions. But for now, let's go to the inside story on the Women's and Children's Hospital Foundation Charity Home.
What a difference a couple of months can make. This Hindmarsh Island Charity Home, which will be sold for the Women's and Children's Hospital Charity Foundation, has been built from the ground up and the final result has blown many people away.
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. It's everything that we had hoped for and more. The generosity of South Australian businesses has been absolutely overwhelming. And as you can see around, everything that I spoke about earlier has actually taken hold now, and we've got the beautiful arbour, we've got the black butt flooring, we've got the air conditioning in every room. It really is something to behold.
The official property launch was held on the weekend and the home is now available to be purchased by one very lucky buyer.
Look, this is very special. When you're a foundation and somebody builds a house, donates the land, all the contractors give their time and TOOP+TOOP gives their time as well and do such a marvellous job presenting our house. We feel very special indeed. So a day like today, we're able to show the house to people and really get them to see the place firsthand. Very exciting for us.
All funds raised by this home sale will go towards helping out those most in need.
This will go to a development that we have which includes a laboratory and a breathing space concept for children with difficulties in breathing. So a very important cause, very important part of what we do.
For further information on this house, make sure you take a look at our website or contact one of the agents involved in the sale of this property.
And what a great property down at Hindmarsh Island. I was down there on the weekend and what a fabulous job they do to get raise the funds for the hospital. Now joining us today in the studio is the very lovely Adrian Smith, the Regional Manager of the South Australian and Northern Territory Commonwealth Bank. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. It's always lovely to have you here. And of course, we've got all the women on the panel today. So, you know, it's a bit of girl power going on here.
Absolutely. Never complain about that.
Not at all. So tell me, the earthquake in Christchurch, how devastating that has been for New Zealand.
Yes, it has. And I'm fortunate that my family is mostly in the North Island. But certainly watching the news on TV was pretty distressing, as was the Queensland floods. It's very distressing when you see people lose absolutely everything. So yeah, not good.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. It certainly is. Kerry?
Adrian, tell us about what your job actually entails. I know you look after a lot of people.
Yes, I'm really fortunate. I've got about 850 staff across 66 branches across South Australia and Northern Territory. And I'm responsible for the service and sales results of those branches. So the branches obviously have people enter into them that are doing transactions. It might be deposits, it might be withdrawals, but also I've got personal lenders and customer service specialists who see customers about home loans and investments, etc.
Adrian, there was an interesting State of the States report here a couple of weeks ago. How did you think South Australia fared in that?
Yes, I went through it. It's really interesting. I've only been in South Australia about 10 months, and one of the things that I was told was you don't have great highs and great lows in South Australia. And what was really interesting reading that report across all the economic data, all the economic indicators, was that South Australia was sort of middle of the road in things like construction, in migration, in unemployment figures, etc. For me, what I like to look at is the confidence and what people think the people's confidence is, and that appears to be pretty strong, and I think that's important. I also keep a really close eye on unemployment, and certainly across Australia and South Australia, the unemployment numbers appear to be pretty stable, and I think that's a great sign.
Yeah, it is, and I think over the last couple of years, the stimulus package has certainly done its job in that respect with unemployment.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So how has that affected the property market then?
Well, I also, for the property market, I've been keeping an eye on the number of listings, and it appears to me when I look over the last 3 or 4 months that the number of listings is actually quite high. And we had a little chat about that before, and that it also looks like property has been on the market for a wee while longer. So I think people are looking at it and going, I'm not going to rush in. I'm going to be careful, my employment appears to be strong, but I'm also going to look at what is the stock on the market, what is the price, and not just be a bit patient, which is interesting because I observed a little bit of this in New Zealand where there was a bit of a standoff between buyers and sellers, and in the end something had to give and there had to be more compromise. But certainly there is a lot of stock on the market, there's competitive interest rates out there, so I think there are opportunities for people to get into the market, whether you're a first home buyer, whether you're upgrading or whether you're an investor. The opportunities appear to be there.
And I agree with you, they certainly are. There's a lot of good stock out at the present moment. But what we're finding from our perspective is a lot of property sales are certainly being held up for one way or another. What do you think that is? Why do you think that's happening now through the banks mainly?
Yeah, no, look, that's a good question. One of the things that I've thought about is, legislation has now come in from January 1, which I believe in some circumstances has meant that much lengthier conversations are taking place with clients on their needs. And very clearly, when whatever institution, and including brokers, etc., when they're interviewing a client, they really, really need to understand, is there anything that is going to impact on this client repaying this loan in the future? Really examine that and not let that go. Maybe that's impacting on some of the lengths that it's been taken to get through lending approvals.
We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Well, the media's been reporting a lot of competition between the big four banks. How's that impacting on the average person, Adrian?
Well, I think the competition's always been there, but what I think is interesting with all the press, and there has been a lot of press, it has certainly raised the awareness of what is available out there for clients. I always say to people, again, whatever institution you're going into, make sure the person in front of you is really asking you a lot of questions, because you only know what you know. But you should be getting asked questions about what do you intend to do with this property, when are you likely to sell it, and things around interest-only loans, or what is the length of your loan, because this will all impact on what type of loan you're going to take. And there are many different types of loans that all the banks have available. So I think it's really important, the competition's out there, just make sure the person in front of you is skilled in asking you questions so that you get the right loan.
Just to finish up, the property market, how do you see it going in the next 12 months here?
It is really interesting, because it's for people I speak to, they're looking at the values of properties, and what's really interesting, and I see you've got some stuff on RP data coming up, is that when you look at South Australian figures, they're one of the few states where there's been an increase in value. One of the things that I think is so stable about the South Australian market is it's really affordable. And let's be frank, this is a lovely place to live. So I think in terms of opportunities for people, it's a matter of making sure that the public is aware of what's out there, and that people really take advantage of it.
Do you see many differences between the South Australian and the New Zealand market?
The New Zealand market has really come back in value, and I haven't seen those sorts of drops of values in South Australia. There might have been some pockets, but certainly there was some very big drops back in New Zealand.
Thank you for joining us. Please stay with us because we'll have more later in the show.
Lovely, thank you.
And now let's go behind the blinds.